Looking for something different for family fun? A night out with friends or your next team building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the Haunted Mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's get through this. Let's get to this right now, as I've been really wanting my guest tonight, Maxim Furek, to be on the program for some time, but I've had to cancel on him a number of times because of different things. And the poor man was probably thinking that I was doing it purposely to him. And sometimes it just gets very busy, and he's been so patient and so kind with his time that I was really humbled that he, even after like the third or fourth time, I hope it wasn't more, it might've been, that he still said, yes, let's do this. I just needed to get him on the program. He's written so many good books, and tonight we're going to focus on one that I believe is one of his most recent, and it's the Smurl Haunting. I have the book right here, and this is a very fascinating subject, one that is very close to me, actually, because, this is one of the reasons why a lot of us got into the paranormal, which is Ed Lorraine and talking about their influence, but also some of their cases, because this book covers more than that. Maxim, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Greg, thanks so much. It's been a long time coming, but thank you. And thank you for all those kind words. And, so far, what a nice, smooth, and organized program you have. I mean, I love the intro, and this is great. So thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here, and the thing is I think that there's so much here to cover. And am I correct in saying that the Smurl Haunting book, is this your most recent?
The Smurl Haunting came out in 2025, along with Paranormal Apocalypse. This is how it ends.
Got it.
And they both just happened to be published at the same time. I was working on those, but the Smurl Haunting, when Ed Lorraine came to town, the Conjuring Last Rites came out September 5th of 2025. My book came out sometime like 4 or 5 months prior to that. So, the timing was great. And I think because of the Conjuring motion picture, we did really well with, and we were continuing to do well with sales. And I tell people, if you want to be entertained, go see Conjuring Last Rites. But if you want the true story, read my book, The Smurl Haunting. I stand by it, and I take pride in being a researcher and an author. And by that I mean, books that are well researched and proofread and all that. So, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, the book looks fantastic, first of all, and really, really nicely laid out. And what I love about it, I like when an author's not afraid to include pictures in it as well, as a way to help get the point across, whatever else. And I also think you brought up a really good point about the Conjuring films. I feel like people, like especially in our field, will be like talking about the films, and they'll be like, well, it's not even close to how it really was, blah, blah, blah. But you bring up a really strong point there about the fact that why can't we just also just be entertained by some of this stuff we know? And it's I get where some of our paranormal contemporaries might get frustrated because they'll be like, well, people think this is how it really is, but it also might be a way for people to open the door to start seeking out like books like your book.
Right. And I think what's happening is I think people have an appetite for this. A good example is the Conjuring franchise, 9 motion pictures worth $2.7 billion net. That's net. And that includes, I think it was 3 Annabelle motion pictures and 2 of The Nun. And the rest were just based on, but they were based on the careers of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who I had the opportunity of meeting and befriending. So you can't take this lightly. I mean, you could ask, why are people so enthralled with the Conjuring franchise? I mean, what draws them? I mean, why is this the most successful horror franchise of all time? And we have this hunger for learning more about demonology, and we saw this back in the late 60s with Rosemary's Baby, and then we saw it with The Exorcist, and then we saw it with The Omen, and just, I mean, wonderful box office hits. So many tickets sold, but it showed that not just the United States, but the world, had a real need to know more about these topics, these once forbidden topics. And that's what this is all about. And that's what my book, The Smurl Haunting, is all about, walk into the dark side, into demonology and the rite of exorcism and all that.
Now, as you just said, people have this appetite for understanding demonology, and that's been, especially with these films, been really kind of going on and on. What do you think, though, in terms of like Ed and Lorraine themselves? They always seem to kind of be at the epicenter when we have these rise in popularity of such topics as demonology, that it seems to go back to Ed and Lorraine. Obviously with The Conjuring, it makes a lot of sense because they are actually characters in this universe.
Right, yeah, right.
But I mean, even before that, their names have always been attached to a lot of the big cases. What is the appeal of those two?
Well, they were ambassadors and they were pioneers. Just as we were learning about Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist, Ed and Lorraine were starting to get name recognition. They did close to 1,000 seminars, programs at these universities. They were getting something like $5,000 per program. They were on talk shows. I mean, they had the recognition, the notoriety, but again, they were the ambassadors. They were educating us as to the realm of demonology. They were Roman Catholic demonologists, and they did for the realm of demonology what Sybil Leek did for the realm of witchcraft. She was the one that let people know, especially women know, that, hey, it's okay to practice Wicca and witchcraft and paganism. It's okay, So that's what Sybil Leek did, and that's the same thing that Ed and Lorraine Warren did. Remember, a lot of people won't even address topics like this because they're afraid. They think they're demonic, that they're somehow evil, that if they even look, they're going to get tainted or scarred or possessed. I mean, whatever it is, it's archaic, primitive thinking. The world doesn't work that way. And just because somebody like me, and Greg, I mean, I can't speak for you, but just because somebody like me really has a fascination for the demonic and the existence of evil and the devil does not mean that I dance with the devil, that I do his bidding, that I walk that, that dark pathway. It's not like that at all. And I want, want people, I mean, not that anybody's going to, I mean, I've already been warned about this, but there's a lot of people out there that just don't see it correctly, and I think they're looking through a lens that is, maybe cracked or tinted, or tainted. So
I would agree. I would agree with that. And also I think there's the other side of it too, because like you said, it's just you have those people who think if they even look at something that has like a slight look of a demon or something, that they are in danger or whatever. And I agree with you that they are not right. the other side of it is that you also get in our field as paranormal investigators, we get some of those people who think it's a badge of honor to provoke that. They think, that they want to really push that envelope, which I also don't understand. I also do not believe in.
Right. My new book that's coming out, I thought I had it here someplace, but it's called The Scream of the Haunted House. And one of the things that I learned from this, with ghost hunters, there's three maybe laws. It's respect, intention, and patience. And when you go into a haunted house, an alleged haunted location, you need to be respectful of what's there and be patient and have the proper intention. So this is all good. This is all, ethical. And I think that if we go about our business, whether it's looking for Sasquatch or hunting for ghosts or whatever it is, to just have the right intention is I think what we need to be. And maybe we need to remind ourselves of that at all times. What we do represents the field. It represents the genre. And I'll tell you that even with my books, I take pride in writing, in having what I think, and I hope this sounds the right way. I'm not boasting, but I take pride in my published books because I put a lot of work and effort into it. I have proofreaders, paid proofreaders. I want to get it right. I don't want to publish something and then be embarrassed because there's just a ton of, really stupid typos and things that I don't want in there. So I read plenty of paranormal books. I read books about Bigfoot, and I've read books that just aren't very good. And it's an embarrassment to our field. If you're going to write a book, get it right and, get some help. And, but anyway, anybody could get published, and a lot of people do get published. And there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't really that good. So, that's the bottom line. And again, it's disrespectful of our genre.
Well, and I'm smiling and nodding because I'm in complete agreement, and I think about it from my side as well with the radio show.
Yeah, right.
Because you get the same sort of thing, and I'm not here to put anyone down, but it is like, there's people who just will do a Facebook Live and they'll just talk, and it's great to have a conversation, but you could see that if you don't have any kind of structure to it, you end up kind of going kind of quiet on it. What I think I want to do, because I want to give you time to answer questions and whatnot that I have. I want to take our break a little bit early.
Sure.
And when we come back, I want to really get into the book. The book is called The Smurl Haunting, When Ed Lorraine Came to Town. We're going to talk more about this book and really get into it. So don't go anywhere.
Okay.
You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Looking for something different for family fun, a night out with friends, or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the haunted mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape. And it's going to be a very busy week for me, and I hope that you come out and see me. I'm going to be at a couple places this week doing paranormal investigations, and we want you to come out and join us as well. This Thursday, which would be June 11th, I would like all of you to come on out to Divine Lights in Anoka, where in Anoka we do that monthly paranormal investigation of the store. We've been going to different rooms throughout this last year at different parts of the store, and each month the activity has grown and has been very exciting. And we really think that we've gotten some really great responses and got some great situations going on there. So hopefully you can come out, join us. The investigation is from 6 to 9, Thursday, June 11th. And to go get tickets, go to charvinity.com, go to events and classes on the left-hand side. There you will be able to click on the link and get tickets. We'd love to see you out there. Then the next night, Friday, June 12th, Char and I will be doing our bi-weekly investigation at the Pillsbury Club, the big mansion in Minneapolis, which is the home of the Minneapolis Trolley Tours. We're going to be doing that. That's going to be going from 9 to 11 Friday night, and you can get tickets. Go to MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com. I cannot express enough how every single time that we're in the mansion, because it is a mansion, it is very big, that we're in different parts of the mansion. Each investigation, we go to different rooms, and the more they renovate, the different layouts that we're going to be allowed to check out. It's a lot of fun. We hope to see you there, and that's going to be this Friday, June 12th. Meanwhile, I want to make sure that people know you can learn everything that you possibly want to know about Maxim Furek over at MaximFurek.com, right? And that's where you can check out all the books you've written and learn a little about you, right, Maxim?
Absolutely. If anybody's interested in checking me out, my bio, my books, check it out at www.maximfurek.com. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah,
please
appreciate that.
And also, I want to a couple things I want to say real fast. As usual, the Smurl Haunting, when Ed Lorraine Came to town, is up at GhostBox.com, GhostBox Book Club. If you consider getting it and using the Amazon affiliate link to get it, it helps the show directly. But I also want to make sure you can get the book through MaximFurek.com. And also, please be kind enough when you get the book to leave a positive review for him, because you cannot believe how simple reviews about the author's books really help them out. So I just want to make sure they knew that. So yeah.
And one other thing too, I'd like to say, Greg, I mean, to your listeners, please support local podcasters, authors, bookstores, libraries, etc. Keep it local, support local. If you don't, it's going to go away. So, we're just the little guys. We're not corporate America. So just, give us your love and support.
It's a great reminder too. Like I said, love you to go through GhostBox Book Club. But if you are like, I prefer to go to my local bookstore, remember, they can always find these books and order them and bring them in. So yeah, absolutely. 100%. and we're talking about a great book. We're talking about the Smurl Haunting, when Ed Lorraine came to town. And let's get to it, because I think what's really interesting about this, and the way that we talk about how this is written, and I've written a number of thesis sort of papers. I feel like that you've laid this out kind of in that way, where you have built up this book with other wonderful cases that have been covered before you even get to the Smurl book, right?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, that you've actually noticed that, but that was the intent.
Yeah.
To build up to that, and go from there. I wanted to go and compare and contrast the Smurl Haunting with other noted haunted houses. One thing I want to say that I came away with was that the Smurl Haunting was a lot more violent and personal than things like, say, Amityville. And the reason for that, I believe, is that Jack and Janet Smurl, they were Catholics that lived there in this duplex with their daughters. On the other side was Jack's parents, but they were devout Christians. They were Catholics, and I believe that they were targets. They had a target on their back. I believe that the devil, scores points by taking people like that down. So one thing, the Smurl Haunting started off like a lot of other haunted houses, the noises, the sounds, the smells, the rooms that were heated that were like maybe 50 degrees or 30 degrees, just weird stuff, the pounding and everything. But what made it personal and violent was that Jack Smurl claimed that he was raped by a female demon, a succubus, and his wife, Janet Smurl, was also molested by a demon. So I believe that this was because they were Christians and they were being stalked, and that's why this happened. And it was almost like a double-edged sword, because it was their strong faith and their connection with the church that eventually, I believe, cleansed the house through the rite of exorcism, and that this story had a happy ending. Not all haunted houses, not all exorcisms go this way. And a good example is Father Treebolt, who was the priest from New York State that came down to Pennsylvania to do the cleansing. It took 4 exorcisms before he got it right and cleansed the Smurl Haunting. He couldn't do that at the Hinsdale House in New York, in Western New York State. He tried, but he could not go and get it done. And he said at the end, some places are just pure evil. What you do is you take your possessions, you don't tell anybody where you're going, and you just leave. He said that the Hinsdale House was a hole to hell, and that was the one that he couldn't get right. I'm not sure why. I believe that maybe there was a legion of demons there, that they were just too powerful for even Father Treebolt to do anything. So that's my conclusion. But in my book, the Smurl Haunting, Father Treebolt is the true hero of the book, of the story.
I want to, and I hope I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. I hope I don't. That's okay, that I'm not like ruining the end or anything. But I wanted to kind of make a point about logic when it comes to this sort of stuff, because I've read that after the Smurls moved out of the house, that whoever else came in afterwards, they didn't have anything else happen to them after, when they moved in. They didn't have the same sort of thing happen. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the logic to it, because there is no logic, right?
There's no what?
There's no logic. There's no logic to any of how this works. You can't apply logic to some of this stuff.
Well, maybe not logic, but there's commonality.
Yeah.
And we know that demonic forces can infest people, places, and things, animals, dogs, etc. So I think that they infested the Smurls, wherever the Smurls went. And then when the Smurls left, eventually this dissipated. So no, there, as far as I know, there weren't additional hauntings there at the Smurl house after they left. But again, remember that Father Treebolt had cleansed the house. So that's the one thing. But when you look at not logic, but look at commonality, even with demonic possession, we talk about a progress, like we talk about temptation infestation, control, obsession, and then possession.
Yep.
Or when you talk about people that are possessed by a demon, you're talking about people that can speak in foreign languages, people with superhuman strength, people that know, if you're the exorcist, they know your intimate secrets. They may be able to levitate. I mean, a lot of weird things, but again, there's this commonality from case to case to case, and that stays the same. So, although we don't have definitive proof, what we have is through ghost hunters and exorcists and people who have been plagued by evil manifestations. You have a story, you have a written record that seems to line up, and there's commonality there. There's, so we can go with that. I mean, you could call that logic, but there, a lot of these motion pictures, like The Exorcist, got a bunch of this right. And and even if there's one with Father Amorth, it's called the Vatican's Exorcist with Russell Crowe.
Yep.
And this was about Father Amorth. He was the Vatican's exorcist who did thousands of exorcisms. And here's the thing. Here's one thing that he said, which is pretty interesting. He said that only 2% of the people that he deals with, well, that he realizes are possessed, only 2% are actually possessed by demons. The other 98%, it's some type of mental illness, either schizophrenia or Tourette's syndrome or bipolar or something else, but not demonic possession. And one thing that the Catholic Church does, when the priests go in there, they need to have psychiatrists and psychologists with them to tease out, to weed out the people that are mentally ill. And a good example of this was Annalise from Germany. They did an exorcism and she died. And the German courts tried Annalise's parents and the 2 Catholic priests, and they were found guilty of her murder. And from now, exorcisms are not allowed in Germany, at least, above board, legitimate ones. So This was because of the case of Annalise. She was a 27-year-old college student. She believed that she was possessed by demons. And here she was dealing with, they found out later, she was dealing with some type of schizophrenia. And she was very convincing, but she wasn't possessed. She was mentally ill. And unfortunately, she died because of the what they did. I think she was basically starved to death, and a lot of horrible things.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, if listeners to the program will be very familiar when you bring up Father Amorth, because I talk about actually quite a bit the documentary that was made in 2018, directed by William Friedkin, The Devil and Father Amorth, and which is truly, there is some very frightening things in that documentary. Just... Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I did see the Vatican's Exorcist, but I need to check this out.
You do. It starts off rather tame, but it takes a turn. So anyway, we could talk about that some other time. I don't want to derail from this book. And the one thing that you had brought up about, and I think as you say, the reason why you kind of started the book the way you did was about the commonalities.
Correct.
What were some of the general commonalities that you were finding between a lot of these cases and the Smurl Haunting?
Well, when you talk about your typical haunted house, you have typical, manifestations, the knocks, the smells, the voices, all of this stuff. And then in the case of the Smurl Haunting, they became more and more pronounced. Like, for example, the chandelier fell and almost killed their daughter. The brand new television exploded. The Dawn Smurl, who was 19 years old at the time, the dog Simon, the German Shepherd, was levitated and thrown across the room. And this was probably one of the more interesting or fascinating aspects of the Smurl Haunting, because we don't know if Simon was thrown across by demonic forces, or if Dawn Smurl was manifesting some sort of psychokinetic energies, as Stephen King has told us about and educated us about. a lot of adolescents, typically female, have these powers that they aren't able to control. And part of this is immaturity, adolescence, anger, and they can't control it. And it's possible that that dog, that German Shepherd, was lifted up by Dawn, not purposely, but maybe she couldn't control it, So
Yeah.
that's one example. In the Conjuring Last Rites, they have a snippet of the dog, which it's very surreal. You can't, unless you know the story, you don't know what that is. They also show Jack levitating and being raped by the succubus. And again, unless you know the story, it's very surreal and almost poetic. You don't know what's happening. But the story, the Smurl, the Conjuring Last Rites, is just totally fabricated. It has no bearing on the Smurl Haunting. They use Judy Warren as the protagonist with a mirror and being stalked by the demon and all that. That never happened. As far as I know, Judy Warren never stepped foot into the Smurl house, excuse me, unless maybe she was there for some promotional videos, before September of 2025. But I don't know. But anyway, the story, the story was interesting. I love the Conjuring franchise. I saw, the Conjuring Last Rites twice. But again, it's interesting, but it's not the true story. So just if you want to be entertained, go see the movie. If you want the real story, please consider reading my book, The Smurl Haunting, which takes a deep dive into the realm of the demonic.
Well, and I think too, one of the things that you had mentioned that kind of whet my appetite a little bit, because I have a vast fascination with this, is you had talked about the purpose. One of the things about this book in general gives you a deep understanding, a deep discussion on the demonic, the demonology.
Mm-hmm.
What is it yourself putting this together, or maybe even talking with the Warrens, since you knew the Warrens?
Yeah, right.
What is it about demonology that maybe totally blew you away, that you didn't know about, either with writing the book or just talking with Ed and Lorraine about their cases?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I've written books about Bigfoot and cryptids, about UFOs, about haunted houses and all that, but it's the realm of demonology that seems to push my special button. There's something about it that fascinates me, that draws me in. And I believe it's real. I mean, I could I could guess about flying saucers and Bigfoot, and the interdimensional theory. But as far as the realm of demonology, I believe that there's evil entities out there. But I believe that, when people go into haunted houses, I mean, they either say the prayer of St. Michael the Archangel, or they use holy water, or they use prayers, they use sage, whatever it is that they use for protection, the white light. I mean, there's way to stay protected and grounded. And, I believe that I have a strong faith. And, and I don't dance with the devil. I don't dabble in that. And, and so that's that's where I'm coming from. But one thing that when I was talking to Ed, I would call Ed every now and then and ask him how he fought these demonic entities. And pretty much he would go and invoke the spirit of Jesus Christ, of St. Michael the Archangel, or Padre Pio to do battle, to use holy water and the crucifix and all that. So he was very passionate about what he did. I would call him up. Typically, Lorraine would answer the phone. She was an animal lover, a pet lover. She had a pet rooster named Einstein, and you could hear the rooster in the background. But they were wonderful people, and they were wonderful people to me. They were mentors. I believe they appreciated my enthusiasm and energy, and they treated me with respect. And not everybody likes the Warrens. I mean, there's, a lot of times when you climb that ladder of success, there's people there that are trying to bring you down for whatever reason. One interesting correlation between the Warrens and the Smurls is that a lot of people in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, did not believe the Smurls, that they were being attacked by demonic forces. They believed the Smurls were just out after money. And the same thing Ed and Lorraine Warren were castigated for, for having a commercial, interest. And let's face it, I mean, even with the Conjuring franchise, I think they got $1 billion just to sign on to use their name and likeness. I believe it was $1 billion. So they were making money back in the day. And but again, we live in a capitalistic society. I think every one of us wants to just hit it out of the park just one time, and not everybody does. I mean, how many authors, how many podcasters, how many Roman Catholic demonologists climbed to the top of the pile? Ed and Lorraine did, but I got a ways to go before that happened. So, but that's just the way it is. But I think a lot of people are envious of people's success, and they try to find ways to tear it down. And, so I think that's the case with Ed. I find myself defending the Warrens' reputation a lot when I do these podcasts. But I mean, they were my friends, and they treated me well. And I respect them for all of that.
That's great. Why don't we go ahead and take our next break? When we come back, we're going to continue talking about the Warrens. We'll continue talking about the book. And, there's a lot left to get to, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis Trolley Tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursions to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We are going to have on author Aubrey Graves. And it's taken about 10 years, but I think we're finally going to be having a great episode about Haunted Disneyland. which is something I've been wanting to talk about for
Huh.
so long. And the fact of the matter is it just kind of never really happened. And Aubrey has been great. She wrote a book about it, and this is gonna be at least one of 2 episodes with her about Haunted Disneyland. I cannot wait to have that conversation. I'm having a great conversation right now. We are talking about, and make sure you get your copy, the Smurl Haunting, and it's called the Smurl Haunting When Ed Lorraine Came to Town. But there's so much more to this than just the Smurl Haunting, written by Maxim Furek. And what we said before, you can get it, go to your local bookstore, see if they can order it for you. You can get it through his website, which is maximfurek.com. Or you can go to GhostBox Radio, GhostBox Book Club. You can get it through there. And both for him and myself, it will help. Going through the Amazon affiliation will help us, but also make sure you leave a review as well, please. That would be great. So Maxim, as we're talking about this book, this is a little bit more, you've done a lot of eclectic writing. What prompted you to write the Smurl Haunting?
Yeah, there was, this sounds like pretentious, but there was actually something that channeled through me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, West Pittston, Pennsylvania was in my backyard. It's about maybe 35 minutes away from where I live. So during the 80s, I was there all the time, taking pictures, talking to the neighbors, getting caught up in this. Not talking to the Smurls, though, because they were under assault by demonic forces, by the paparazzi. Janet Smurl was getting hundreds of phone calls from international reporters who wanted exclusive interviews. And then, of course, the public who did not believe them, the public that turned on them and believed that they were doing this just for financial reward. But I was there when it happened. In 1988, Ed and Lorraine Warren hit the road. They were doing a 15-city book tour to promote the book called The Haunted, which was about the Smurl Haunting.
Yes.
I met them in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, this resort community, hung out with them, took pictures, stayed in contact with them over the years until they died. And we befriended each other, and they were very respectful. They were mentors to me, and they told me a lot about the Smurl Haunting and about the realm of demonology. And then the other thing that happened, this just happened last year, but it was July the 11th, 2025. I talked my wife into going with me to Gettysburg to see Annabelle. So we went. It was Friday, July the 11th, and I was let in early. I was introduced to Dan Rivera. We hung out, we chatted. And Dan was this former Methodist that converted to Catholicism. All these guys that were there at the orphanage in Gettysburg did the God talk. They all talked about the power of the devil is great, but the power of God is greater. So I had a really nice, Dan Rivera was just an incredible guy. He agreed to do a phone interview with me on the 14th, Monday the 14th, when he went back to Connecticut. So on Monday the 14th, I got a phone call, and a friend of mine said, "Did you hear about the Gettysburg researcher that died?" And I did not think Dan Rivera. I thought somebody else that was there.
Yeah.
Here it was Dan Rivera that died the day before I was supposed to interview him. So again, how did he die? Well, the coroner said that he suffered from cardiac issues, and he died from a heart attack. People in the realm, like Chris McKenna, who's Ed and Lorraine's grandson, believe that it was demonic energies. The psychic Vincent sisters from Butler, Pennsylvania, believe that it was the demonic energies from Annabelle that wore down Dan Rivera, and that's how he died. Again, we don't know. It's all conjecture.
Yes.
People that surrounded Dan, people that were around him, people that were around him on that tour, did not believe that it was Annabelle. So we really don't know, but I believe that there was something of the demonic. I think that Annabelle did have something to do with it. The other thing too is I think we need to realize Lorraine Warren wanted Annabelle to stay at the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, and in 2025 Tony Spira and the New England Society for Psychic Research took Annabelle and all those artifacts on the road. And before Gettysburg, she went to San Antonio, went to the West Virginia Penitentiary, went to New Orleans, where all this crazy stuff happened in New Orleans.
Plantation burned down. Yep.
Biggest plantation in Louisiana burned down. The jailbreak, 12 guys, some of them were murders, escaped from the local jail. And then the voodoo queen, Marie Laveau, her house burned. Part of it burned. So again, people that I talked to from the Ghost City tours didn't believe that Annabelle caused this, but yet, I mean, one thing is coincidence, two things is coincidence, but you have three things or more, come on. I mean, and the death of Dan Rivera, it's just John Keel talked about elements of high strangeness. Again, coincidence is one or two things, but when you get three or four, you got to take a look at something else and think that maybe it's more than just coincidence. Maybe it's something else. So,
On Halloween last year, I had on my program Wade Kirby, who's part of Nesper, and we were talking about the tour with Annabelle, and he had talked about how no one could leave her, no one could, they had to be in her proximity 24 hours a day, and all the other things that they needed to do to make sure that everybody was safe around there. I mean, in my humble opinion, it's only my opinion, regardless, not knowing what Lorraine thought about, removing Annabelle from anywhere, it just seems like a dangerous thing. Yet at the same time, I have seen Annabelle myself in Connecticut. Yeah. So I mean, because we're curious about it. I think I even said it to Wade. He's like, I think it's a bad idea to move her around, but I'm right there. I wanted to see her for myself. I'm curious about her.
Right. And again, a couple of things. Annabelle was housed in this wooden cage that was constructed by Ed Warren and Dan Rivera. This is what Dan told me. It had the Lord's Prayer in the back. It was infused with holy water and holy oil. It had the three crosses. There was a sign, do not touch, or, beware. Yeah. But so that part is true. The other thing, though, Father Bob was supposed to be there at all times, doing a blessing and keeping us safe. When I was there on Friday, July 11th, Father Bob, it was my understanding, was down in South America. This is what they told me, but he was not there on the premises. So, part of the deal was that Father Bob would be there keeping us all safe. So that part, certainly wasn't true. And I don't know if that played any part in this. So, I don't know, but that was my experience. I mean, when I saw Annabelle. The other thing too, the Gettysburg Connection, the newspaper talked about the number of people there over the 3 days. It was something like 1,260 people, each paying $40. That was a pretty good take. Maybe 50,000 or more, and combined with all the other ones that they did prior to Gettysburg, around $200,000. So this was a lucrative thing, and you could say that they took Annabelle and the artifacts around for our education and for our paranormal edification, and that's fine. But you could also argue that there was a financial incentive behind that as well. So again, that's. We live in a capitalistic society, and I mean, I'm not faulting them for doing that, but I mean, they have a commodity there that people wanted to see. And I mean, I'm glad, I'm grateful that I had a chance to meet Dan Rivera and some of the other people there and see Annabelle and see that whole ambience. It was pretty neat. So I enjoyed that.
No, I actually had, and I'm not going to get into it because it's not important to the program, but we had some strange things that happened to us when we were not when we were viewing her, but during that period of time that we're out. It was at the first Warren convention, and it's very interesting. Other than that, I mean. And I never had a chance to meet Dan myself. I wanted to talk to him. I knew a few of the other people on Nesper, but I mean, it certainly his death it was amazing how the ripple that is sent throughout the community, wasn't it? And it went outside of the community into sensational stories as well, which I felt really bad about, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, that part's true, but so Dan died. There was the conversation about whether or not they should have taken Annabelle outside of the Monroe Museum. And then during this conversation, during this exact moment, they sold or leased the artifacts to the stand-up comic Matt
Yep.
Rife for $1 million. You know, and again, I don't know if he bought it or he leased it or whatever. It doesn't matter, but he has it now. He possesses that. He retains it. And and again, to continue that conversation, I mean, is that a responsible thing to do? You know, is he the right person to be the handler of Annabelle and all those artifacts that may or may not have demonic energies?
Well, and to be honest, I mean, what you're saying is I agree with. It's like my response would only be my reaction, right? And it's, you know, and ultimately is not for me to say, because to me it feels like personally I feel a little flustered by it, because I feel like it cheapens the legacy a little bit.
Right? Yeah. Well, it certainly commercializes it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And perhaps cheapens is the absolutely wrong word to use for it, because it's anything but. We have about we have about 3.5 minutes left. I don't know if you can answer this fully, but one of what you had kind of pointed as one of the most interesting chapters in the Smurl Haunting book is about Pope John Paul II and the Exorcism College. Is there enough time to kind of quickly talk about that?
Yeah, again, if you know, you have to ask yourself, do you believe in the existence of the devil and evil? And the Catholic Church, you know, with all the popes, you know, Pope Francis, you know, a number of them did, but Pope John Paul II, who was canonized in 2014, he believed that the devil exists. And he believed that we had to do something to bring this awareness into the 20th century. He did two things. One, he rewrote the rite of exorcism, and also he convened a college for exorcists. So there were priests from, I think 130 priests from, I forget how many different countries that came, I believe, to Rome to learn this medieval rite of exorcism so that they could do battle with these demons. The Catholic Church takes this seriously. Protestants, however, have sort of given up on exorcism as a ritual. They believe that if you're a Christian and if you believe in Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, that you have the power to fight the devil on your own. You know, Catholics don't. We believe we bring in our B squad. You know, we bring in, you know, St. Michael the Archangel and Padre Pio and all the other ones. So I mean, that's how Catholics do it. But Pope John Paul II believed so strongly that the devil existed that he did all that, you know, the college, and rewrote the rite of exorcism. So it's very real in the 21st century now. I mean, we're not backing away from that, and you know, I mean, evil takes many shapes and forms. So you know, I mean, the devil, I think, wants us to believe that he or she doesn't exist, that he or she is just a myth. So, you know, take your pick, but, you know.
I think it's another great example, and I have about a minute left here. I think it's another great example of what, Pope John Paul II has actually done for modernizing Catholicism, let alone bringing attention to things like this, which had been kind of taboo in the past.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting, to an interesting correlation, we could finish up with this, but in 2014, there was a dual canonization. It was Pope John Paul the 23rd, who was in my book, the Shepton book. He was the hero of that, created miracles, and also Pope John Paul II. They were both canonized in 2014. So just amazing, just incredible. Two great guys. Pope John the 23rd also was a progressive. He had Vatican II.
That's right.
he tried to bring the church, have the kumbaya moment to bring the church into the, into the 20th century. However, some people view him as either, as the devil because they don't like what he did. And there's a lot of rogue priests that don't go along with Vatican II because of that. So look at that.
Isn't it something? We have to leave it there. Maxim, this was great. Thank you so much. Folks, go visit MaximFurek.com. I'm going to be back tomorrow talking about Haunted Disneyland. Everyone, have a fantastic night.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, folks.